I'm your boy Q, host of the Locked On Raiders podcast, continuing to talk about the Raiders' 2021 NFL schedule. And I'm here with the early win-loss prediction for the Raiders and this upcoming season. And look, it's very hard in May to say this is going to be a win, this is going to be a loss, this will be a win, this will be a loss. It's May. You know what teams were really good a year ago, but you don't know what teams that were really bad are going to turn around and be really good. There's always a team or two that do that. So I don't go through it game by game and say it's going to be a win or loss. But what I will say is the Raiders play 7 games before their bye week. My opinion, they need to aim for going 5-2. And I know that that's a steep hill to climb because they have some really tough games there, including the Ravens and the Steelers to start things off, 2 very tough AFC North opponents. That's one issue right there. So they need to go 5-2 in the first 7 games. Then they have a bye. Then they come back and have 10 games to close out the season. And honestly, to make the playoffs, which is what the Raiders need to do in 2021, they need to go 6-4. That's what they've got to do. 5-2 in the first 7, 6-4 down the stretch. And you hope that that's enough to get you where you got to be, which is in the playoffs in 2021. You hope that ultimately you can go and get into the playoffs at 11-6. So that's what I'm going to say the Raiders are going to do in 2021. They improve from 8-8 to 11-6. I'm your boy Q, host of the Locked On Raiders podcast.
David Harrison and Chris Russell here for the Locked On Washington Football Team podcast, continuing our reaction to the 2021 NFL schedule release. And Chris, our final quick reaction before we get into recording our full show, win-loss predictions, which are always a little bit tricky, especially this far out. Plenty of things are still going to happen. Hopefully not to this team, but there are going to be some players who unfortunately get injured. Some players maybe still left to get signed. There's always a surprise trade or two that could take place. But as you look at this stretch of games for the Washington Football Team, what they've done this offseason to improve the team, and then another year with Ron Rivera to kind of get his guys in place in his systems, how do you see this shaking out record-wise for the 2021 Washington Football Team?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this is just an educated guess. I mean, who knows how these teams are all going to be when you play them. That's just as important. But, David, I guess my early lean would be 9-8, which sounds weird, right, because of the 17-game schedule. But, again, remember, they're playing one more road game than home game. They're playing a first-place schedule. And even though they've improved, and I think their depth is much better and their talent level is much better, and you mentioned year 2 of Ron Rivera, I think some of that advantage gets negated by the grind of the schedule and the opponents. And I don't love opening up 2 games at home. That means 9 of their final 15 are on the road, which is going to be a challenge. Still, I'll go 9-8.
That is a very good point that you make there, and a very tough schedule when you really look at it. This is a team in a situation where they've got to win the games they're quote-unquote supposed to win. If they're favored to win, they've got to come out of that with a victory. Coming out the gates early with 2 wins at home, like you said, against the Chargers and Giants would be absolutely huge and critical for this team. Still, 7 wins last season with all the turmoil at quarterback, with Ron Rivera getting really his first crack at really starting to shape his team. I like what they did in the offseason. I like what they did in the draft, getting a lot of, like I said, Ron's guys into the building. I don't think 3 more wins is really that much to ask for from this Washington Football Team. You go 9 wins, Chris. I'm going to give my early prediction of 10-7 for the 2021 Washington Football Team.
I like it. For more reaction on the full 2021 Washington Football Team schedule, make sure you check out the Locked On Washington Football Team podcast along with David Harrison. I'm Chris Russell. Thanks for watching Locked On Now.
I'm Julian Council, host of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. The Carolina Panthers 2021 NFL regular season schedule is finally out. Well, it's been out for a couple months, and we've known who they're going to play, but now we know the dates. As far as what the team's win-loss record should be, if you listen to the podcast, which you should be doing every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, wherever you get your podcast, you've known that I feel like this Panthers team probably is going to go about 8-9, 9-8. And I felt that way even before Sam Darnold was brought to the roster. I felt that even before the draft, just thinking after being 5-11 last year, being ultra competitive. Let's not forget 0-for-8 in game-winning or game-tying drives last season. Hopefully that will balance out and the Panthers will be better in one-score games, which truly decides whether you're going to have a winning record or a losing record in the NFL. And I'm going to think that's going to balance out a little bit better this upcoming fall. So I think the Carolina Panthers, 8-9, 9-8 feels like the perfect kind of natural progression for this franchise as they get closer in year 2 with Matt Rule. So 8-9, 9-8. I'm thinking probably more of a 9-8 season for the Carolina Panthers. It's also going to hinge on whether Sam Darnold improves and is better than what Teddy Bridgewater was last year in 2020, which I think everyone here in Carolina is hoping is going to be the case.
David Harrison and James Jarko here from the Locked On Bucs podcast. One more quick reaction here, James, to the Buccaneers 2021 schedule. And finally, we're going to go with a win-loss prediction. And I know you hate doing these so far out, but we got to do them. The schedule is finally set. How do you see this 2021 slate of games going for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
They do have some tough games. You have your division rivals. The divisions are always difficult. You have the Buffalo Bills. You have the emotional reunion of the Patriots and Tom Brady. But David, I'm going 15-2. This is one heck of a football team. All the guys are returning. Another year in the system, another year with Tom. I don't see very many losses coming for the Bucs.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a thing that Buccaneers fans would love to see. And you could actually see it happening, but I just think the way that the NFL works and the amount of parity they have in this league, I feel like things are just kind of break the wrong way. Every once in a while, you have some tough division games in there, and actually a little bit of maybe a disadvantage here and there against really good coaching staffs is the fact that this team is returning all of their 22 starters. So these teams have plenty of film to watch without a whole lot of new additions to this Buccaneers roster. I'm going to go a more conservative 12-5. I could see a 13-4, but 15-2, I mean, that would do the trick and definitely make our year a lot more enjoyable.
Well, for more reactions like this and all of our reactions to the Buccaneers 2021 schedule, check out the Locked On Bucs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Joe Marino of Locked On Bills here to deliver my early record prediction for the Buffalo Bills in 2021. And this is a team that's coming off a 13-3 season where they went to the AFC Championship game, and the Buffalo Bills return almost everything from that roster that had such a successful season last year. 21 of 22 starters are back. The lone starter not back is John Brown, and the Bills made the decision to cut him and replace him with Emmanuel Sanders, who is widely regarded as an upgrade to that position. So the Buffalo Bills are a young football team, a lot of players that have yet to realize their ceiling, and a lot of opportunity to improve within by these younger players taking a step forward. And so I don't expect this Bills team to regress in 2021. I think this is a team that goes 12-5 or even 13-4, claims the AFC East, and is once again a contender in the AFC Conference. For more analysis on the Buffalo Bills schedule, be sure to check out the Locked On Bills podcast.
Gino Camilleri here of the Locked On Eagles podcast. The 2021 NFL schedules have been released for all 32 franchises. The Eagles have the easiest strength of schedule according to records from 2020, but the schedule makers did not make it easy on the Birds, waiting 14 weeks until they get a bye. They are playing both Super Bowl competitors in the first 6 weeks. It is not going to be easy for the Birds to make it out of this schedule without facing some bumps and bruises. They do have some good notes. Past week 10, they do not have to get on a flight. They stay on the East Coast, where the final 4 weeks of the season, they play all division opponents, and the final week, they play Dallas at home. Glancing quickly through this schedule, I have the Eagles going 7-10. Get used to that 17 games. It does make the math more difficult, but with the way they shape this up, according to the bye, according to where they play these tough opponents, the Eagles have a tough early stretch. Might be able to squeak some games out in the middle, maybe get one against the New Orleans Saints, but on the back half where you play the Giants, the Jets, and then 4 division opponents in the final 4 games, that's where the Eagles are going to have to get their wins. Gino Camilleri here, the Locked On Eagles podcast.
The New England Patriots 2021 NFL schedule is set, and the question on everybody's mind is, how many games are they going to win? I'm Mike Debate of Locked On Patriots, and with the release of the 2021 NFL schedule, speculation is rampant on how many wins the Patriots are going to take away from the upcoming regular season. Last year's 7-9 record still leaves a bad taste in the mouth of a lot of Patriots fans. This year, the good news is, I think you can finally cleanse that Foxborough palate. Way too early to determine how the season is going to shake out, but taking all things under account, I can see the Patriots walking away with about 11 wins, maybe even 12. The Pats made some solid upgrades to their offense this year, especially at tight end, but this has a chance to be a special, stout, and stifling defense this year, and because of that, I like the Patriots' chances of matching up with anyone on their schedule. There are some tough tests on this docket. The Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, the Cleveland Browns, Indianapolis Colts, of course, Tom Brady and the Bucs. but the Pats can be competitive in this division and in this schedule. And taking under account the strength of their schedule, double-digit wins should not be an unrealistic expectation. For more on the Patriots scheduling news, stay locked in to the Locked On Patriots podcast, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everybody, Locked On Browns host Jeff Lloyd asked for an early record prediction based off the release of the 2021 NFL schedule. I think the Browns are going to have a phenomenal season. I think the work has been laid as far as roster management through free agency, through the NFL draft, to put in the final missing pieces that the Browns are going to need to not just win a playoff game, but maybe to win multiple playoff games in the 2021 NFL season. I figure 13-4 from what I'm looking at. Kansas City, that is going to be a tough matchup week one. I know a lot of Browns fans are nervous, but keep in mind, as much as the Browns have a lot of moving parts that are new on defense, Kansas City Chiefs will be debuting a new offensive line across the board. So interesting game there. I figure the Green Bay game on Christmas, if Aaron Rodgers is still a Packer, could be a difficult one for the Browns as well. You figure at best maybe a split with the Baltimore Ravens, which puts you at 3 losses. Then you figure there's going to be that one hiccup, that one flat tire, that one ball game where the team comes up a little bit flat. But my prediction right now today, off of this schedule, your Cleveland Browns will be 13-4. Make sure you are subscribed and following the Locked On Browns podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and the brand new Odyssey app.
What's up, guys? This is Daniel Wade here from Locked On Chargers, and now that the 2021 NFL schedule has been released, it's time to do a way too early prediction on the Chargers record this season. But before I get into that, we have to take some things into account, including the Chargers have a brand new head coach in Brandon Staley, new offensive and defensive coordinators. They had a couple of big departures in free agency, but this is what they have going for them. The former Rookie of the Year in Justin Herbert, a brand new and improved offensive line that could be a top 10 unit in 2021. And if the Chargers are going to have success, they're going to have to really do well inside the division. They went 0-6 against the AFC West in 2019, 3-3 in 2020. Now, this season, I think the Chargers will go at least 4-2 inside the AFC West, and I think the Chargers will surprise a lot of people. I think that in 2021, the Chargers are going to go 11-6, push for a playoff spot, and really turn a lot of heads in the NFL. For more on the Chargers and all of the latest, make sure to follow Locked On Chargers, your team every day.
The Falcons 2021 schedule is officially out. I'm Aaron Freeman with Locked On Falcons. Heading into the season, we know that the Falcons have the 3rd weakest schedule based off of 2020 records, which means despite a 4-12 finish in 2020, the Falcons might be poised for one of the biggest rebounds in recent memory this upcoming season. They faced 2 of the weaker divisions in football in 2021 in the AFC East and NFC East. The AFC East was an even 8-8 against NFC opponents last year, suggesting the Falcons could look to achieve a 2-2 record against that division this year. The NFC East team struggled against NFC opponents outside their own division last year with a combined 7-17 record, suggesting that the Falcons could pick up 3 wins against that division this year. Within their own division in the NFC South, the Falcons should be looking at a 3-3 split, facing rivals like the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as well as potentially weaker versions of the Carolina Panthers and New Orleans Saints. Their 3 remaining games include road games against the 49ers and Jaguars and a home game against the Detroit Lions, an opportunity for the Falcons to pick up 2 more wins. If I've done my math right, then you're looking at a 10-7 finish for the Falcons in 2021. For more on the 2021 Falcons outlook, follow Locked On Falcons wherever you get your podcasts.
Happy NFL schedule release day, everyone. I'm Patricia Traina, host of the Locked On Giants podcast. And with the New York Giants schedule finally released, what can we expect from Big Blue in 2021? Well, in my way too early 2021 season prediction, I've divided the Giants schedule into 3 segments, starting with the first 7 weeks, in which I see the Giants getting off to a bit of a slow start and finishing that segment 3-4. But as we know, it's not how you start a season, it's how you finish. And I have the Giants finishing strong. In the second segment of the schedule, which spans weeks 8 through 11, and which sees the Giants facing their toughest stretch, in which they're going to visit both the Chiefs and the Bucs over that time span, I think if they go 2-1 in that period, the other team they're facing being the Las Vegas Raiders at home. I think the Giants will be set up very nicely for a roll towards the finish line in the last 7 games of the season, in which they're going to face NFC opponents in 4 of those games. Now, we all know that the key to winning the division is obviously winning your division games. And I think if the Giants can go 4-3 in those last 7 games, they should be able to finish with a 9-8 record and what I'm projecting to be a 3-3 record in the NFC East and a potential wildcard berth. For more on the New York Giants, keep it here on the Locked On Giants podcast. We're on the air Monday through Friday here on the Locked On Podcast Network.
What's going on, everybody? Ross Jackson here, host of the Locked On Saints podcast, and we're here to talk 2021 NFL record prediction for the New Orleans Saints. Some would say it's too early. I say let's have a good time and let's have some fun. I'm giving the Saints a double-digit win season. In second place at worst in the NFC South. I still have a lot of confidence in this team, even in the post-Drew Brees era, because it is still the present Sean Payton era. And for me, that has to mean something. This team will make the right decision at quarterback, whichever it is, whether it's Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill, and they'll build a system specifically around that quarterback. And this defense has been resilient in the past. It will be resilient again, despite the holes that it had suffered all throughout the offseason. They've done a good job addressing some positions, although still some work to be done there for certain. But this is a young and talented team all across the roster, and I do think that this team can still find its way to an 11-6 or 12-5 record by the end of the 2021 NFL season.
All right, so everybody is going to start doing their schedule record predictions now that the full Vikings schedule is out. For my money, I've always been a little bit more bullish on the Vikings. Currently, the Vikings over-under win total is 8.5 wins. I think that I slammed that over back in March when it was first released, or maybe it was even February, because I am a lot more bullish on what the Vikings have done to improve their roster this offseason. They had a horrible run defense problem, and I know a lot of people are not very big on investing in run defense, but run defense sank the Vikings in 2020. There's no two ways about that. Fixing that problem, I think, is huge. With a little bit of injury luck, I think they should be able to hit that over, and that's 9-8. That's not even that big of a bar. In fact, I think if a few balls break the right way for the Vikings, I think a 10-7 season, I even think a division title at something like 11-6 isn't out of the question at all. I think the Vikings can absolutely make contenders out of themselves if a ball or two breaks right this way and they get average injury luck. They don't even need to be astoundingly lucky. I think if the things go according to the plan that they set up for themselves in free agency, then I think they should be able to put a season together that's worth remembering.
The Baltimore Ravens 2021 schedule is officially released. This is Kevin Ostreicher of the Locked On Ravens podcast. Baltimore has the second hardest schedule in the league in 2021, but there are opportunities for the Ravens to potentially pick up easy wins. Now, in the NFL, no win is an easy one and no opponent can be overlooked, but maybe looking at games like the Detroit Lions or the Cincinnati Bengals, those could be games early on in the season that the Ravens can chalk up as a win. But again, no overlooking opponents in the NFL because that can get teams into trouble. For more on the Ravens and their full 2021 schedule, be sure to tune into the Locked On Ravens podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Tyler Rowland here, host of the Locked On Titans podcast, breaking down the 2021 Tennessee Titans regular season schedule. What do I think the Titans' record will be in 2021 after looking at their 18-game slate? My initial reaction is 10-7. The Titans have a ton of very difficult games. They're on the road against Seattle, on the road in primetime against the Rams. They have games against the Bills, games against the Chiefs, away game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. There are some other very difficult matchups in there as well, like on the road against New England, on the road against the Colts will always be a tough game. There are some very winnable games on the schedule as well for the Titans. A home game against Miami, their obvious division foes who the Titans should be in Jacksonville and Houston. The Titans should be able to go 4-0 or at least 3-1 in those games. They go on the road against the New York Jets, but with a rookie quarterback and the team that they had last year, odds are that the Titans should win that game. But there are a lot of games that are a toss-up for the Titans as well. A home game against Arizona, a home game against San Francisco, an away game against the New England Patriots as well is a toss-up, as well as being a very difficult game. What version of the New Orleans Saints are the Titans going to get at home in Week 10? We don't know for certain. So while there are winnable games and difficult games, a lot of these games are going to be toss-ups, and they're going to be games that the Titans could win or could lose. So not a very easy schedule for the Titans. And with that in mind, I do think they will be a winning team. I ultimately do believe they win the division in 2021 again and repeat as AFC South champs. But I think they do that with a 10-7 record in 2021.
It's Bo and it's Alex, and we're just kind of deciphering the Arizona Cardinals 2021 slate. It's been revealed. It's like Christmas morning. And Alex, we have been given the fool's errand of trying to come up with a season win total for the Arizona Cardinals. An extra game on the schedule. It's the Cleveland Browns. Probably the best third-place team in the history of the NFL. Is that safe to say? 11 wins last year. Not exactly a win for the Cardinals there, but trying to figure out, how things are going to go. An improved roster, Alex, but is it going to take the Cardinals from a 500 team? You can't finish 500 in 2021 any longer because of the extra game. How do you kind of break down this season? How's it going to go for the Cardinals?
I mean, there's going to be a couple swing games here that the Cardinals need to win, and if they don't, it's going to be a problem. And you look at Jacksonville Week 3, that's one right off the bat. You need to take advantage of a rookie quarterback, a rookie head coach, never coached in the NFL before. The Texans at home in October and Detroit on the road in December. Bo, I have them as an 8-win team, 8-9. And I really we've had this schedule for all of 12 minutes, so you know that we for sure are able to fully deep dive into this schedule. It's like picking an NCAA tournament bracket with the colors of specific teams right after you get them. I have them at 8-9, and I think I'm being generous. Honestly, I do.
It's tough. It was tough to kind of get above 500 just with how the season plays out. Arizona Cardinals, I had them barely at 10-7. That's a couple win improvement, and I think that would probably punch their ticket to the postseason. Where those wins are, Alex and I, we're going to break it down on the next Locked On Cardinals podcast. Find it where you find podcasts. Stream it on the Odyssey app.